Hello and welcome to the first episode of Residents of Horror Save Room podcast. This is your host Kevin and my co-host Jacob, and we're just gonna review some of the content we've been coming out with and just go over things.
Sorry, I'm making all the noise.
Now it's your turn.
Oh, well, I'm Jacob. I'm the one that entices little children to watch weird Japanese things. That's
That's
true.
your intro.
Wait, hold on.
That was your intro, dude. Hey, kid. Instead, you roll up in the white van. You're like, "Hey, kid, you want to watch a weird Japanese movie?" And you just hand them a DVD and leave.
That's kind of how my episode starts.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Too bad it couldn't be more like the kidnapper from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh,
That guy is traumatizing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, now there's going to be a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang joke in my show.
Oh yes.
That'll be great. Yes.
Oh, yes.
So. Okay. So, how do you want to break this down? Do you want to actually do like sections and beats and things like that, or?
Well, let's talk about really quick the 3 episodes that you made that you worked on. Because I got to rewatch them yesterday, but unlike your experience, and I could have pulled out the DVD, but I was a little lazy last night, and I was like, I'm already in bed. I watched them on YouTube, and they did not have subtitles or accurate subtitles.
No.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just observe. I mean, I know what the plot is. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
And next time I will actually pull out the DVD and find the episodes and watch it with everything. But I also kind of wanted to rip it somehow and have them just for my viewing pleasure with subtitles.
So I guess I should just say this from the outset, as far as like I guess Basement Dweller episodes, there is no plan order to the degree of right now as of recording. Despite I have my general overarching joke for the next episode, I haven't decided if I'm going to actually watch the next 3 episodes of that show, or rather the movie, the short stories in that collection, or if I'm going to pick up some from a different collection, because there are a lot and there are different flavors and stuff like that. I was thinking I'd just continue on with the movie's short stories, but at this point, like, I already got a request from a very prominent member of my social circle to do a circle, is what I meant to say there, to do Ju-on, the original Japanese version of The Grudge, I guess is another way to do it. And then they also, and talking to some of my coworkers at my day job, they're like, hey, you should do both the Japanese and American ones and then compare them side to side. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's really, like, because you have so few movies that are, like, direct remake super comparable things to that degree. Of course, you got to do them both. So I just want to let people know, yes, that's on the list. Grudge is on the list. Ring is on the list. Like all the big name ones are on the list. As a matter of fact, you might have, if you paid close attention, you might have seen some directors' names, the familiar names, pop up in the episode that I did do. But at this point, like, I'm trying to, I don't know. What do you think? Should I just keep on going with this unless I feel like I need a break? But because the thing is, it's like I wanted to stick to the short stories at least for first, before, and then break out the big ones like Ringu and things like that on the big episodes like episode 10 and episode 30 and episode 50 and things like that.
I mean, you can make them like leading up to something. Like, okay, eventually I'm gonna get to this thing, and I'll let you know when I'm gonna get to this thing. I always see it. I mean, for what we're doing, bringing in new people to the YouTube sphere to this, and sending this out to friends and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's a bad idea to start small and then work up to bigger stuff, or at least tease it, because that'll bring in more viewership.
Yeah, and the thing is like one of the few complaints I actually had with my entire episode was the fact that one of my friends was, after they watched it, they were like, I wish you really would have drawn a line under these directors, and because that's kind of the back of the box selling point, is who directed these short stories, because there are some pretty big names in Japanese horror, or thriller I should say, that were tied into those. And I gotta be honest, if you want a little bit of an early honest review about that, I think they did better in their things that they're famous for than in these short stories. I think these short stories, I really feel like they phoned it in on a lot of them.
Hey, I mean, it could have been just like a scheduling thing or something like that, and they're like, juggling all these things here. It's quote-unquote horror.
And the other thing about that is, that's on the back of the box of the American or Western release DVD set. They might just be like regular, like one of millions of directors, it's just like, yeah, they're big names here, but I don't even know if they're big names in their native country. I assume they are, because Joan, it's it's kind of famous, and I'm pretty sure it was pretty big over there as well. But
now I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't seen the whole Grudge series outside of like Ju-On, the Netflix series, which is right. I would like to hear your take on that, because I was a little confused on that ending of that one. I have an idea of what happened, and I think I even watched a video kind of explaining a little bit what happened, but I was still rather confused with it.
Okay. So yeah, it's just like, if people are looking for a list of what exactly they can expect, there isn't one. Because like one of the things I like about the show and doing it is because I can not only present it as like a more laid back experience, it's just like, I don't know, my episode was like 11 minutes.
I believe so. Maybe 13.
I'm on that 10 to 13, 10 to 15 minute episode. It's nice. The thing is, so it would have been longer if all three of those short stories were interesting and had a lot of plot beats in them. But something I gotta stress about the Japanese short story formula is there's a lot of no plot beats happening in a lot of those stories, because they like to take their time building tension, which, as a person who consumes this content on the regular, is like, yay. I enjoy that like a lot. It's a part of the experience, right? But when it comes down to me retelling a narrative, I'll be honest, I skipped over a lot of the nothing that happened, especially in the second short story, where it's just like, I really summed it up so fast to the point, and that was while lollygagging on some rabbit holes of my own with it, But yeah, the proof is in the pudding. Like the first short story in there is like half of the episode, and then the other two are the other half. So it's because legitimately there was just more going on in that first story than there was in the other two, and I've seen all of them before, but I don't remember them, so it'll be like a refreshing experience, for me at least. But I don't know, I'm proud of what I did.
I like what you did. I would like more, and I've had a couple people also on my end say, "Oh, that's different. I like that."
Yeah, and really, like, the point of the show, if I could say it, like, if there's any box I need to check, it's just me going, hey, here's a thing this is what exists, because I don't want to just inform people about like, oh, hey, this is a weird Japanese horror thing you might want to check out. It's just like, hey, here's the good stuff and here's the not so good stuff. And because I think informing people what they can skip is it just as helpful as informing them of what they got to see? And when it comes down to like something like this, which is a movie, which that has a collection of a bunch of short stories, is like you're gonna get the whole package one way or another. Like I'm trying to think. I think the collection that we both have, I think that's the only way for you to get these that aren't like streaming for free on YouTube. But you know, like me going around and saying, hey, there's this short story that's a movie where 3 women go on a drive and then they smoke cigarettes and then go to a shrine and then get chopped up by what I assume or what I think, like I haven't confirmed this, but I'm pretty sure a bunch of wind weasels.
It sounded from what I saw and from
yeah,
like what you were telling me.
it's pretty spot on. It sounds like according to the book, the yokai books and stuff that I have, that seems to be their MO, is they chop you up so fast that you don't really
which
even
I
see
remember
them.
the very first time we saw these, which was like several years ago, that it was like we were kind of looking at each other like, what happened? I'm trying to figure out.
But it's that thing of like, and I'm not a cultural expert at any case. I just like, if it's not explainable and if it's just weird, it's better for me. But, you know, because I know the things I know and I look at something, and anybody who knows way more about this story than me can go ahead and say, well, actually, and that's fine. And I'll be pay attention and I'll try to take that moving forward. But right now, I think that second story's thing really is about those freaking wind weasels. So
Yeah.
and as far as that third story goes in that whole trilogy that I did, I think it's a real bummer that, you know, they have the whole lady coming down from the ceiling and strangling you mini story in that first story, and then they give you that one wind story between, and then they straight up just do it. I'm like, okay, I think it would be better if you made this like the last story in the collection, because at least then I could argue some like hoity-toity director reason why it happened. Like, don't you see, the story is like a bookends on either end of the collection or something. But I can't even do that because it happens so fast. So it's just like
add a small link in there where it's like, oh yeah, the reason that she kept strangling Steve is just because him and her now ghost husband are they were best buddies, and he kept taking him away from her.
And I gotta stress the point, I do not think the ceiling lady from the first short story is the same one from the second short story, or sorry, the third short story.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think. I'm just throwing that out there just because of how similar the MO is.
Yeah, if anybody's bummed out about the treatment I gave that third story, because I really just did big bang boom, it's done.
Which my girlfriend didn't like that episode either, so she was like,
well, I'm just
she's like, that one's slow. I would have skipped that, but I was like, I mean, informing people of it, so.
What it comes down to, what's really going on, like, I know I went into what is this madness kind of ending one with my outro there, but that one, it's really just, whoop, I'm hitting my desk. It's really just about, like, you got this guy, and he's between 2 women that he likes, and the fact it's just like, there's not really, to be honest, I don't think there are any ghosts in that short story, and it doesn't have to be a ghost, but the fact of the matter is, it's just like,
it was just the woman's rage manifesting.
well, it's just like, because the thing is, the way I think it works is, I don't think the other woman needs to really even know who Rachel is. It's just she just knows that she's splitting. His attention is split between her and something else, and, you know, she's upset about it, and then, you know, when you go to bed, that stuff just manifests without your permission. So, you know,
oh, I see.
So her projection is going out and strangling this other person, not because they actually hate that person, it's just they have this hate, and it's got to go out and do something.
Yeah,
you know?
no.
Because you gotta understand, like, that whole, I'm going to call it the yokai realm, I guess. It enacts on I don't know, very instinctual and balance and yin and yang stuff and all sorts of things. But I mean, so I can't really peg that down because I'm not an expert in it. But at the same time, I've seen enough of the stories to know it's just like, yeah, you know what? She's having strangling sessions, and the woman who's manifesting this stuff is probably doesn't even know that she's doing it, you know? And of course, you know, after they get married, you know, it's like that relationship is secured and she's not jealous of this other person because that other person is not a thing anymore. If I went into more detail about it, something I skipped over about the whole thing was like the guy in that story is also having dreams.
Yeah.
And it is also of a woman. I don't know if he's getting strangled in it. I don't remember it too well now, but it was definitely like he's having the same kind of dream, but it's not the same dream. It's like alike, but it really is all about like this guy letting go, even though the guy is not the protagonist.
Yeah.
It's the other woman that's,
yeah.
You know, it's Rachel, it's the protagonist.
Getting the whole experience of it.
Yeah. And she doesn't even like the guy anyway. And so when the guy accepts, it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to give up on my first love and completely commit to my second. You know, he can move on. This you know, the, you know, projecting ghost lady can move on. And then also, like, you know, everybody can move on. Like, I want to underline it. Like, she stayed in the same apartment that they got together when they were in love, right? But as soon as she gets the, like, hey, we're married card in the mail, you know, she moves to a different apartment, right? She moves on with her life because I think she was kind of staying in that same apartment. Like, everything's connected to the point in a way that it's, like, pinned. So where it's just like, hey, nobody can move on until everybody moves on, kind of a thing. Like, she couldn't move out of that department and move up in the world and in her job and career because, you know, this other guy still kind of has feelings for her. And he's kind of pinning her down in that place and time and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is theoretically very, very interesting. But again, when it comes down to these short stories, it's how these directors and writers decide to portray those concepts that I find very interesting. And if somebody did a better job of doing those concepts, which I know there's other stories out there that do that. I mean, look no further than what's that cell phone one? I can't remember it.
Missed Call? Or One
Missed Call, yes. Missed Call's all about...
those are interesting.
No, well, the thing is, it's like it deals with those same concepts, but to the purpose of the end result, rather than making people linger, it straight up is just like a haunting where it's just like, here is a vengeful spirit that's out to kill you. So despite it comes to less, the way it handles how those things are interconnected, I think are better. So you can expect that coming down the pipe as well. So yeah, I know that like, because one of the things that I find interesting about Japanese and a lot of Eastern, like, cinema and storytelling and stuff, like, things are way more they're more connected than a lot of Western media has. Like if a Western movie is like something is tied to something else, they either call it destiny or prophecy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where, you know, a lot of Asian media is like, no, it is. These are these things naturally in their natural state, and they just, you know, they're all prone to be in their natural state, whether that's stagnation, motion, or anything, right? You know, that's one of the things about the video games, the whole Dark Souls series, right? Or Bloodborne, you know, that has to do about like, hey, there's a natural rule in just how the world operates, and all those games are about regular people deciding, hey, I'm going to change the status quo, and because they're messing with this thing over here, it breaks everything else, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, you got one of two endings in Bloodborne there for,
Yeah.
you can either, upset that order, or you could just continue the cycle
Right.
and evolve, essentially, or ascend, sorry. Not evolve.
Right.
Well, you kind of evolve, but...
So, long story short, this has been a roundabout way of saying that I'm very excited for the new Armored Core game because I can't... It's been so long. It's been so long. And they've gone off and made the whole Dark Souls series, and I saw their new trailer, and it's just like, I love sci-fi more than fantasy. This is probably going to be my Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, well, there was also The Surge.
Well, yeah, but The Surge was thematically completely different. Although...
It was more of a Western take, if I remember correctly. So.
Well, it distinctly was. But the Surge is good. I mean, like, the third big level you get to explore in there is a futuristic theme park where all robots are the dominant component, And it's just like, oh, hey, cool. I get to move around these Ferris wheels and roller coasters and manipulate them so I don't die. But then also there's a giant spider thing that used to be an attraction that gave you cotton candy that is now out to murder you. Things like that.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I think that's pretty much all I gotta say about the stuff I've done so far. But the future's looking bright. Yeah, I got plans.
I'm excited for your series. We're going to continue our Let's Plays, Ashley and I, who couldn't make it this time. But we also were thinking about a couple of films here and there that we were looking at, too. Some more so in the slasher genre, I think, or stuff that we found in our own experiments or experience of looking at Asian media.
Right.
We found some pretty interesting stuff, which I'm almost certain that you may have not seen. She's more inept to go on Amazon and find stuff, and she's like, well, I got new stuff for us to watch. And some of it, I don't know why, and this always seems to happen, but, we'll sit down to have dinner, right, and pop one of these suckers in. And then the gross stuff starts happening, and I'm like, I'm trying to eat. Now, normally that wouldn't be a thing, and I'm not talking about a bunch of guts or anything like that. I'm talking about people vomiting and spitting on each other and stuff like that. And it's like, weird. That's not what I was expecting to get into with this movie. Okay, because lots of these that we're finding are either hits or misses. To the point, the movie was so weird, and we're gonna at least try and find one scene on it because it was. I don't know what the movie was trying to say. The movie is called ID, or ID. It was very odd. It didn't really seem... It seemed like it was trying to connect a bunch of things, and it just felt very dirty. With just a lot of people living in filth. And there were some scenes in there that I'm just like, did grape happen? And I'm using that as a... It's a YouTube friendly thing too, where it's like, that was really weird what I just saw. So some of those things we might go back and look at with some of our experiences that we've run into with some of these. I know also, I think she wanted to go through the Halloween films at some point. So, and I think you and I have had extensive conversations about the new ones and how the portrayal of Michael Myers, and I have a real bone to pick with the new ones, at least with the last two, not so much the first one. A little bit with the first one till I saw the other two, and I was like, okay, never mind. That one's fine.
Which, I would love to stick to... Well, I'm going to distinctly stick with Asian horror for now, so I'm not going to touch the Western stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to kind of look at a bunch of different things.
I'm sorry to those two guys that I met in the alley that wanted me to do Life Force. Yes, I'm sorry, that's not on my list.
I've never seen that movie.
I've heard about it. Your girlfriend should watch it. Should.
Is it like Event Horizon style?
It's like
I don't know what
The
I'm getting
Happening
into.
with vampires in England.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, and also aliens. like the movie Aliens, it starts like an alien film in a way that's just like, hey, this is pretty good, and then you really, my screensaver turned on.
I know.
Oh, why are you trying to betray me, screensaver? Okay, I guess I'll wiggle my mouse every once in a while now. Where was I? Oh yeah, Life Force. Like it has a really good like sci-fi production value where you're just like, hey, this is pretty cool. But then they get back to Earth and it's just like, oh, okay, this is just pretty much a naked lady walking around London sucking people's souls, right?
Kind of reminds me a little bit of, well, I don't know, at least Species. But that one's, I don't know.
I have not seen those, by the way.
So I watched the first two in one sitting. Oof. And I was like, okay, I kind of like, the first one I actually liked. I thought it was going to be a lot of unnecessary nudity and stuff like that. But
right.
it was very picky with it. And it was very much, because you know what the series is about. For anybody who doesn't know,
I saw those movie posters and
and it's very like, okay, that's the advertising point, but it really, they go out of their way to try and figure out like the biology of this thing. I haven't seen it in a while, so I need to go rewatch them. But it almost turns into an Alien in the Sewers movie at the end of it, and I was kind of surprised at how much I actually kind of liked it. The second one, it was believable to have happened in the same universe with the same characters. I know they've gone up to 4 and 5, and I couldn't find those streaming, so I looked up the trailers, and I'm like, oh no, I'm after 2, no, I'm done. Just because they were so low budget, and you could tell they were just like, they've kind of just slap these stories together to where it's like, these are going to be really, really cheap. Yeah. So I dipped out while the going was good, I think. At least for those movies.
So, like, as far as franchises, like, as movie franchises I can really recommend, I can recommend Friday the 13th as a franchise, just because there's just a lot of, like, if you and your girlfriend do, like, conversations of those.
So she has all of those. She got all of them for Christmas, I think 2 years ago. And she's like, we'll get to these. So she's well versed in those. The only one I've seen, and I got through half of it before I think I had to go to bed, and it was the last day of it on Netflix, so I didn't get a chance to actually finish it, but was the remake with the guy from Supernatural. I think it was Jared Padalecki.
Padalecki. Yeah.
Which it's like, okay, it's half the movie's literally porn, so I'm like, okay. I just came for the murders, which the murders are actually pretty cool in them.
Well, actually, you're going to consistently get that. I don't remember if it was the second or third or fourth movie of the original run, but there's a movie where he goes up against a psychic girl, and so she uses her psychic powers to telekinesis him on, like, through a wall or something. And that was the first time anybody saw, our poor boy get up and go like, what the heck just hit me? Because, like, nothing knocks him down, right? He's just like Terminator style, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, he's a big beefy boy. So as far as like franchises I've gotten into, like, definitely Halloween. I like the new stuff, or at least as far as
the show.
I didn't know there was a show.
Maybe I'm thinking of Friday the 13th, the show. Yeah, it's Friday the 13th, the show I'm thinking of. Never mind.
But what I thought was interesting in watching, like, how Michael, stalks people and kills them versus just from that one experience of how aggressive Jason is.
Right.
At least in the Jared Padalecki movie, I was like, okay, this guy, he runs and he throws stuff, and he's pretty aggressive with his kills. So I was like, oh, okay, this is different, and I thought it was kind of cool.
So one of the things I gotta point out about that remake, though, is how he's just like, oh, he's got tunnels everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets around so fast. So that is a way to kind of softly retcon how he was teleporting around in the previous movies. It's their explanation of how he does it. Because in all the previous movies, he's able to just like, oh, I'm running away from him, and then, I bumped into him, and then I get murdered. There's a lot of that.
Did somebody try and explain it like with a supernatural thing?
Yeah, essentially, it was pretty much he can just teleport. Like him teleporting, if you look on his wiki page, like the fan wiki page, teleportation is on his list.
Oh, okay.
But he can only teleport to your position. And if you, I think even in the Friday the 13th game, there is a teleport ability he can do.
There is, I saw it.
But only if you're not in view.
Yeah.
So.
Which, I mean, okay, that's good for pulling that. As far as
well,
those
for
games
gameplay,
go.
I think just let him teleport is fine. But it's that thing of just like, hey, he's supposed to be a guy. And actually, I highly recommend you just watching the original first movie because it is not what you think.
That's what I keep hearing.
It's an actual mystery with a twist reveal. So yeah.
So I do look forward to viewing those whenever we get around to them.
They are good, especially when you start getting into like Jason X and.
I kind of want to see
like
the Jason Goes to Space. I don't know which one that one is, but
that's the one I was just talking about.
Okay,
it's
just because
Jason X.
Just because I want to see how they get in that situation.
Oh my goodness, Okay, I'll tell you this. So like he's going around and murdering people on a spaceship, right? But on the spaceship they have like a holodeck, and it recreates Crystal Lake, the camp he's from.
Wow.
And it's just like. He like takes these two holographic women, right? And he throws them into like sleeping bags, and he uses one sleeping bag to beat up the other one in the other sleeping bag, and it's amazing. It's so funny because it's just like he gets there and he's like, oh, "I'm home." And then, of course, there's that one scene from the trailer where it's the guy who's like, oh, don't worry, guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back. And then immediately gets murdered by the machete. So it's, yeah.
What cruel irony.
But of course, you got to get through, what was it? There was like Jason Hits New York or something like that. I don't remember the title of it.
Does that happen before or after this movie? As far as, because I heard one of them is right next to the other.
Geez, I don't even know. It's that thing of this like, okay, is water a good thing or a bad thing? Because like, but the thing is, it's complicated. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I'll just wait till I get through them.
And it all weirdly works. Even the remake weirdly works. So, even the Versus movies, which are okay. I like them, I think. I like them.
I forgot, are there two of them or is it just one?
There are two.
Okay. Because I was a kid.
And the second one is a sequel to the first one in the way that Alien vs. Predator franchise did it. So,
those will be interesting.
Because I can't do this, the only request I have is please do Mimic and Mimic 2.
So I have the first one here, and I think we were going to watch it before you left, but we just didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
So I found it the other day. I was contemplating putting it in. I'm a little bit more into the creature horror stuff than Ashley is, so that might just be a me and you thing, or maybe I'll make a solo review or something like that.
Well, Who knows? If she really isn't like up to the task of, helping her out, like the most important man in her life, then I'll step in as your best friend. I will step in and watch Mimic with you.
He wants to be the boyfriend.
I think...
Okay. So speaking of new things and getting back a little bit to Resident Evil,
right?
So I've been messing around in Revelations 2. So I need to. I fell into the trap of, okay, I'll play the first chapter, and I started to play it, and I got up to a point, and I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna go to bed, and then I checked out the raid mode.
Oh no!
3 hours later, I was like, I was supposed
kiss that storyline playthrough goodbye.
Yeah, and I need to make it a point to go back to the story because, for one,
you have to
you have to unlock. Yeah, you have to unlock more characters by doing story stuff. But man, that thing is addicting. I really like that. Honestly, I think it's a little bit better or more polished than the original Mercenaries modes.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
For sure.
I like the fact, and this is why I was like, okay, we just need to do the podcast so I can nerd out about this part. Is the gun crafting system.
Yes.
And like, okay, I kind of got it to where it's like I'll only throw in certain parts to certain guns, and I realized like I just got the toolbox because I had all these points saved up, like a ton of them, and didn't mess around with that because you have to go up to the phone to activate it, and I didn't realize that you had to do that. So I was just messing around from one area to the other. So I stacked up my points like tremendously, and then activated the toolbox. And I'm like, oh well, I got a bunch of these perks that now I can start combining and just making my weapons like little slaughter machines.
Yeah. And I like it because it is like the version of Mercenaries where it is completely customizable. There are like a bajillion maps, and pretty much all the characters are there. I don't know. I can't think of any characters that aren't in that mode. And then, it has co-op, which is a big plus. Like, so you can get a friend to go in there and play that with you.
Oh man, it bugs me that Moira won't pick up a gun, but I mean, I know there's story trauma reasons for that, so
the big plot beat at the end is she picks up a gun.
I figured as much, which is like, so when we play this in co-op next time, can she just have a gun? I'm just kidding.
Are you playing that with Ashley?
Not currently. I think so since I got it on the Steam sale for like literally 77 cents, and I got a bunch of Resident Evil stuff too.
Right.
I'm planning on buying my own from GameStop, find a cheap one, and downloading it here, and then she can have hers back, and then we could try it that way. I think you mentioned that we need to actually beat the game first in order to play the co-op mode for that. At least story. Because it looked like I could do
the story mode, you have to unlock the same things. So if you have a map you unlocked in the story mode, the other person literally can't play that level with you until they unlock it as well. So it's super bummer and really bad. It's bad. I don't know this, but I think the village from RE4 might be in that game as well. I'm not sure though.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because it's got some places from 6 and 5 in there.
So right now, I'm running through a lot of places with 6. Which I'm like, oh, well, this was a game that came out before this. And also what I do like is they revamped some of the music. So like some of the songs in there...
The music is really good, actually.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the
series,
Ada stuff. From... what was it? The Mercenaries mode, where I'm like, oh, I'm recognizing synths in here. For some of the Ada tracks and her gameplay stuff that are just reoccurring in here. So I'm like, oh man, I've been wanting... I don't know if that style of music has a name, so I'm just going to call it Ada tracks or whatever. But I want to make a playlist full of those, and they're primarily like in Resident Evil stuff or... Resident Evil stuff. I know I made one track that sounds like something from like an Ada... level or something like that,
right?
That I gave you permission to use for Bloodbound. Which, for those who are listening, that is your project that you're working on.
Oh yeah, the project that just got reopened because it might become possible for me to actually make a game with it.
So let's talk about Bloodbound for a minute.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, just rough summary of what that is.
Okay, well, it's a Resident Evil 1 clone currently. But originally it was a side-scrolling 360 shooter. But I've decided to update to the third dimension because I'm just trying to learn this new gaming program. So,
And
Yeah,
it's a series that we've discussed.
Yes, for sure. And I even like
years,
recently asked you to. It's one of the older ones. You know, it's an old code, but it checks out, kind of a deal. But yeah, so it's just like, you know, it's probably exclusively my horror franchise. I'm trying to think. Is that the only horror one I got? Do I have any other horror ones?
Totally
I'm trying
not.
to think. I don't think so. I think that's it for me as far as horror stuff I've made. And you know, its two main inspirations is Devil May Cry and then Resident Evil, which, yeah, I mean it's not really that complicated, and I don't feel good about talking about narrative stuff so much in it, despite it's pretty fleshed out. Like I've been checking out recently because again I started working on it again. And it's just like, wow, I really had all these characters and plot beats really fleshed out in a way that surprised me.
I have an old level design that you did still in my file.
Oh, really?
In my files on my end. Yeah, I have one. I might send it to you after this, just so you could. I think it's probably not something you're going to use. I think you mentioned that you weren't going to use it, but I still kept it just as, you know, as far as inspirational things directly from you to me, to look at the series as a whole. I kept it just so I can, you know, keep things in mind.
I'm always willing to go down the nostalgia trip.
Oh, yeah. But that'll be fun to get into, and, you know, whenever you get around and, you know, when things start working out with that, that'll be fun to look at again.
And like, as far as, like, Resident Evil-like games, I'm going to call them, like, the whole classic survival horror. Here, I'm just going to open up this. Because we got a lot of good games.
So
like recently, like
I also started for my first time around Resident Evil 1, like last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the original remake. And it's interesting. I think I'm stuck in one area, but I have an idea of how to get around it. I never played that game before, so I'm finally getting around to checking it out. And the first thing I saw, because it was a Steam sale, so I got cheap DLC with it, is like, oh yeah, you can automatically make him look like Chris from 5.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll try that. Why not? I know what the old asset looks like. Let's try the new one.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same for Jill as well.
So, but, you know, it's just like, I like the fact that we have a lot of people now that are picking up, because, you know, Capcom's not making classic survival horror stuff anymore, so other people are. You know, which I actually dipped my toes into Garden Variety Body Horror, which is a game. And it's pretty classic. It was like playing a PlayStation 1 game, for better or worse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then there's another one that's called, I think it's called Them or Us.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check. I'll have to check some of those out. Interesting. Because I do kind of want to get back in or check those out, and kind of, I've always just seen those in like compilations and playthroughs, but I actually want to play them.
Yeah.
Which I still don't know how I feel about Code Veronica and its controls, because that was the thing that, you know, bugged me really. And I have it for PS4, and I messed around with it during the pandemic, and those controls really got to me.
Okay, Them and Us. And then also there is You Will Die Here Tonight, which, that one was the one I liked the best, because it seems like you go in, it's like a Resident Evil, like, hey, you're taking your team and going into the mansion, but when people die, they stay dead, and then you might run into their zombie later and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like, okay, so it's got the zapping system in there, which the zapping system is like a classic conceit about that franchise.
Interesting. I'll have to check that one
so
out,
you're swapping characters through runs, and it's just like you take turns, and it's just like, well, yeah, one of the things that you got to do to get past the point where you died last time is defeating the last guy you were playing as, which I'm like, hey, that's pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
That sounds like fun, yeah. So, but of course, it's a hard get harder kind of game.
Yeah, get good.
So,
But yeah, no, that's definitely sounds interesting. But,
and then there's a lot of other ones, but so yeah, I'm thinking that that whole genre is in a pretty good state right there.
I like how people just like on Steam and stuff like that have like taken up the mantle of, well, Capcom's not going to do it, so we're going to start making it ourselves.
Yeah, which is fine.
Which
one of the ones up when somebody does Onimusha, but
which one of the ones I kind of wanted to get to, like I played it and I kind of need to go back and actually beat it. I think it's called Decaying Nightmare. And it feels like a weird mish of like its graphics are like a PS1 and it's first person, but it kind of feels like you're playing a mix of the original Resident Evil and Resident Evil 7 just meshed together.
Oh, are you talking about Nightmare of Decay?
Yes, that one, sorry.
Yeah, I have that one as well. I haven't played it. So, from my understanding is it's an RE7 or 8 like. I think, yeah, somebody's described it more like those.
It's like a 7, but it's got a lot of elements. Like, you go into a mansion, and you like there's a lot of backtracking and stuff like that. There is, and I got pretty addicted to this because I wanted to get everything from there, a shooting gallery in each area.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, they do their job as far as like making the resources scarce, and everything they give you in there will like really help you. So I think I've gotten up to almost the end area in that game, and I've like really sought after getting all the resources, and they really helped a lot. So, and some of them are gun attachments if I'm not mistaken. I might have to go back and look, but that one's definitely worth a playthrough. I quite enjoyed it. I have the tail end of the game to still beat, but I'm curious if it has like a Game Plus mode or something like that.
I'm not sure. Like all the ones that I've seen so far, they seem to be one and done experiences, like even the best ones. And the fact that it's just like, okay, the only one that's got multiple games in the franchise, I think, is Garden Variety Body Horror is the second one out of a other different game. I think the thing about most of these games, I think what's going on with them is you're probably going to see most of them in old PlayStation 1 horror game compilation.
You know? Oh yeah, like that one that you sent me. That's like, yeah. I think it was like 4 hours long or something like that, which doesn't bug me. I could just put it on the background while I'm working, and then look on over if there's a game that interests me and make a mental note. But I like those compilations a lot, actually. Just to see people's appreciation.
Yeah.
For those series and their interpretations of it.
Yeah, and I think that's just the way that those kind of horror games are going to go. I think they're going to be pretty much demo long, and they're going to be packaged with other like-minded games, and that's just the way that these indie horror games are going to be presented to us from here on out. Yeah, it's so weird because I just bought a couple of new some white whales in my PlayStation 1 collection. So at this point, it's just like I actually got to play for the first time 2 more games that were the only 2 games that were ever described to me as being Mega Man Legends-esque. And they're very Mega Man Legends-esque in different ways. It was kind of interesting where I was like, oh, this one looks like it, but it doesn't play like it at all. And then the other one was just like, oh, this is like the most extreme version of the mechanics, but doesn't have any of its, like, as far as I can tell, visual charm. It's got a different thing going for it. And it takes itself a little more seriously in a way that I'm like, okay. But in that weird fantasy way I don't like. I feel like I'm playing a Final Fantasy game, but with mechanics I really like. Not to say anything bad about Final Fantasy games, because they also have mechanics in them that I like, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
cool.
it's at this point where I'm like, I watch a lot of people's like 100 good PlayStation 1 games that you never heard of, and it's like, okay, let's look at this list, and I'm like, I got that one, I got that one, I got that one.
You're like, oh no.
It's so funny.
The lists of rare items that I have.
the number of people that are just like, hey Jacob, have you ever heard of this game called Evil Zone? And I'm like, yeah, I've been playing it since I was a kid. And they're like, what? But how? And I'm like, because GameStop sold all their PlayStation 1 games and I bought them all. What do you want from me? You know, I wasn't even allowed to get a PlayStation 2. That's what Kevin was for.
Yeah. And then I took the one game that you gave me, or that you meant for yourself, and played the crap out of it.
Right. And this is the thing. I kind of feel bad about that now, because it's that weird friend economy where it's like, hey, you know, I'm going to come over and we can either play your game or my game. And, you know, as the friendship grows, it's just like, oh, there are games we both like and we play with each other. Like, yeah. I got a little sad last night when I saw Paul's name pop up on Steam, and it's like, he's playing Borderlands 3 without you. And I was like, oh. But there was a big old storm happening last night. Internet signal was not going to be any good. And I was at work. So that's a double I can't do that.
I like it's just, oh yeah, I was at work too. It's just... Well, you know, things are in the works for those who have made it this far and are still listening. We're going to try and explore different avenues of either playing games or reviewing content. We hope you enjoy this, and leave a comment and a like if you liked it.
And subscribe, please.
Yes, please subscribe. I noticed the other day we were getting lots more views, but like very little subscribers, so that would help.
Yeah.
If you
and
like
that
what
makes
you see.
Ashley sad. not Kevin's Ashley, like the one from Resident Evil 4, the remake specifically. It makes her sad.
Made her very sad.
Do we need to go over the schedule again? Because like I still feel like some people don't know how that works. I know how it works. Wink, wink. I understand it completely. Wink, wink.
Okay, so you would get a video at least one day out of the week. That would be Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be our upload day. We have so far 3 scheduled spots. So the first spot is Couples Play. That's my girlfriend and I, Ashley. Right now playing Resident Evil 4. And we're going to separate games into playlists. So if we ever get tired of playing a certain game and want to move on to something different, we're just going to make a new playlist for that. So expect definitely a gameplay video from us. And then we will have Jacob's segment, Basement Resident, and you will expect... I'll let you go into your spiel of what that actually is.
Well, okay, it's really just me talking about Japanese media specifically. I'm going to try and stay on the horror topic, but every once in a while I'm going to push the envelope a little bit with just like, okay, it's weird, so it's technically creepy kind of stuff. And I'm mostly going to be doing shows, but every once in a while, if I'm in the mood, I'll also do some games sometimes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like right now I'm going through the short horror story series. What's it called?
Tales of Terror from Japan.
Yes, thank you. Tales of Terror. You know, terrifying tales from Tokyo and all over Japan.
There you
something,
go.
Something. Yeah.
Something other than that.
So yeah, and it's just a short story compilation, and so that's what I'm going through right now.
Our last segment would be this, which is the podcasts, and that'll be either us rambling about the last episode and our thoughts of those 3 or however many stories you go through. Through that, and then just like random either Resident Evil news or survival horror related games or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, also, I may be on this podcast and I may talk about movies and stuff, but I am mainly a digital illustrator and I make comics. I make online comics. So I'm going to guess you're going to drop some links for those, if I can be so bold to presume.
Oh, absolutely. And I actually, we probably should have started off the podcast introducing ourselves and what we actually do, too.
Nonsense.
No, we leave it for the end.
Let them wonder who we are. Who are these men that I'm listening to?
It's the mystery of it all.
Oh, geez. Just wait. Like, maybe I'll depict us as 2 heads on one body. jeez.
It's like a dragon, just a two-headed dragon that keeps arguing
with
with
just
itself.
a two-headed dragon. That's what's talking in the microphone right now.
And I am a professional video editor and VFX artist.
Oh, professional.
So,
How professional. Are you to say?
I've done some work for Tubi. I won't say which because I'm not very proud of the work, but it's work.
It sounds about right. Yeah. Speaking of work I'm not proud of, this episode is brought to you by anything? Do we have anybody who supports us?
We don't have a sponsor yet.
Oh, no. Okay, well, then we don't have a Patreon or anything like that either?
Not yet. But, hey, if the views start picking up on these and there's interaction, then we will provide those services.
Yeah. Also, please comment on videos. That's the one thing I'm lacking. Like, if you're not going to subscribe but you watched our video, then at least comment. You know, I can take or leave the subscription. The views are always appreciated. But, you know, if you leave a comment, I'd appreciate it, personally. Like, my videos specifically. Because, especially when you have a podcast like this, you know, if we had a segment where we actually talked about, like, what the comments were, might not be a bad idea.
Oh, yeah, and even responding to some of those and nitpicking those. Because, you know, other people might pull something from the content or have seen the content before that maybe we missed. So
especially like for my content where I go like, I don't know, I guess it's a wind weasel, and then if you want to go like, actually, Jacob, that's not a wind weaselly. That's not a wind weaselly.
It was a homicidal flash, okay?
Oh, it was Rebecca Chambers.
The whole
fool.
time.
Oh my goodness, how could I not see it? It was Rebecca.
So, anywho, that's going to do it for us here at Residents of Horror. I'm Kevin again, and my co-host, Jacob.
I'm Jacob. Very Jacob.
Very Jacob-y. We hope you enjoyed this, and we're not going to be in the save room anymore. We've got to go back and man the horrors of the mansion.
Right. Yeah. Sure. The horrors of the mansion, which are completely located exclusively in my bathroom.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
You have a good week. Until next time.